For more on what we can expect, we're going to ask somebody who's actually had to make decisions like this. Dennis Lockhart is the former Atlanta Fed president, who's now a professor with the Sam Nunn School of International Affairs at Georgia Tech. And Dennis, you tell us, what would you be thinking at this point? How would you walk into this with all the same information the rest of us see?
Well, first, let me talk a little bit about tomorrow morning's CPI print. It should affect decision making, but in my experience, when people enter the room, they're sort of locked into their positions, and it would take a pretty startling report, a CPI report, to change the basic momentum of the meeting, I think. So that's one point. What I would be thinking is that we've been in a period for a while with inflation data sort of going sideways, and therefore somewhat ambiguous. And so I think the theme of remaining patient and continuing to look for validation that the true path is disinflation toward 2%. That's, I think, the positioning. So this is likely to be, on balance, a sort of boring meeting.
Boring, except for there are so many other things that are happening. I think what you just said is kind of what we heard from Peter Bookvar. Steve was just telling us what he had to say about how, if you're looking, there's nothing in recent data that should give Powell any confidence that it's time to cut. But is there any thought that the ECB and the Bank of Canada's actions do add a little pressure or not?
You know, they're always a consideration. The overall level of the cost of money globally is an important factor in the global economy. But because we sit on an economy here that is so large and so dominant and, relatively speaking, more closed than open compared to some of the other economies around the world, I just don't think what the other central banks are doing is going to be that much of a consideration at the table.
What about the Malpass argument? David Malpass was here an hour ago and said that, look, this is a situation that you can't really fix with higher rates, that this is a supply issue. We need to be more focused on that. And what the Fed is doing not only doesn't work, but actually adds to the inflationary picture, because higher rates do add cost in a lot of different places in the economy.
Well, if you want to predict the path of policy, I think we kind of have to put ourselves into the head of Jay Powell and the committee. And they believe that monetary policy and high rates eventually will achieve the objective. There's been, I think, no abandonment of that conviction. And so I think they will continue to use the tool they have, which is the level of the interest rate, to try to slow the economy and bring inflation down.
Let me just ask what you think about this. I mean, we talked earlier today about how a building was sold here in Manhattan at a 67% discount from what was paid by a related company's unit. Something like 2018, they paid over $150 million. They just sold it for less than $50 million. That's the type of pain that you see spread out in places. Is that the type of pain we need to see more of before the Fed's tool can really work to bring down the economy?
I don't think we need to see that kind of pain, although there could be a great deal of pain related to commercial real estate coming down the road in the next 2 years. And everyone's quite well aware of that. But I think principally what we need to see is a more and more cautious consumer who is spending less or trading down in their spending, and just basically a more muted economy. With pricing power not really very strong on the part of price setters.
Okay, well, based on what we heard from Bank of America, who looks at 69 million accounts for the consumer and small businesses, that's not what they saw last month. They continued to see consumers spend, even younger consumers leading the way, even when it meant that they were taking out more loans, more credit card debt.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's happening. I'm saying that's what we would probably want to see, which means
so that's why it's a ways off.
I think the committee simply has to be patient with this and until they begin to see some of that evidence.